Welcome, Isaac. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your leadership and taking the time to be here for this interview. So welcome.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. So before we get started, as I said, we like to start all things by acknowledging the original starwards of the various lands that we're on. We want to acknowledge the ancestors and all of those who toiled without compassion or compensation. And we acknowledge all the elders and community stewards whose shoulders we stand on as we build and share, as we learn for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So we want to start there. And welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'd like to have you just introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about your background and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thanks again. Great to see everyone. My name is Isaac Olowolafe, founder of Dreammaker Inc., which is an asset management company. And within the asset management company, we're in the real estate space, venture space, hospitality space. And then also the launch of Dream Legacy, which was birthed to bridge the gap between the Black community and institutions when it comes to economic initiative.
Okay, can you tell us the origin of the Dream Legacy?
Yeah, so Dream Legacy was, again, it came after several years of being in the business space and the real estate space and really examining what are the core areas that other communities are utilizing to be able to scale as a community. And what I saw very early was that other communities were attracted and getting access to institutional relationships, driving home ownership, and building more small businesses. So with those three pillars in mind, Dream Legacy was birthed to be tried to bring those type of strategies to our community. When it came to economic focus initiatives. So building institutional relationships, that meant from relationships with the universities, relationships with the unions, relationships with corporates, relationships with hospitals, and creating programs that would have a ripple effect to our community. When it comes to driving home ownership, that obviously came through the thousands of units that we've helped families get into through our brokerage firm, and then the hundreds of units that we've developed and built across the GTA, and then the financial literacy piece on it. When it comes to driving more small businesses, that came through the launch of the first Black Tech Incubator at DMZ, and then the launch of a skilled trades program at Ontario Tech, to train 1,000 Black entrepreneurs in skilled trades. Because as we grow more small businesses, we're growing more employers in the community. And as we grow more employers in the community, we're growing more mentors as well too, more opportunity for internship as well too, and more representation across the board. So that's why Dream Legacy was birthed.
That's huge. We appreciate that. So what is the mission and vision specifically for Dream Legacy?
Again, the mission is really to create an institution within our community that's able to plug in to other institutions and collaborate with other institutions and give a bridge for our community in different spaces. So for example, the big thing right now is data. Getting access to data, getting access to the right type of data to make the right type of policy changes that are required, to make the right type of changes as required within corporations. But you can't make a change within institutions. You can't make systemic changes if you don't have the right type of data. So now within the Knowledge Hub, in partnership with Carleton and universities across Canada, we're working with the Black organizations to see what are those gaps when it comes to entrepreneurships. What are those barriers when it comes to entrepreneurship? So once we get that data, it's not just to produce a report, but now it's to see, okay, how could that data convert into a resource center? How can it convert into solutions? So in doing that, we're creating an institution that's able to collaborate with corporations, collaborate with other municipalities and government, and say, here's what our data has found when it comes to procurement. Here's what our data has found when it comes to billions of dollars going into infrastructure. Here's where our data has found when it comes to employment of contractors. Here's what data has found when it comes to the type of entrepreneurs that are coming into the country. Here's what data has found when it comes to the type of entrepreneurs that are getting capital. And here's the solution. Here's some of the recommendation. And here's the partners that we've worked with, right? So this is not, a one-off exercise. This is not a 2-month exercise, a 1-year exercise. This is a multi-year exercise, and it's a building block. Anything we do as an organization, we look at it from a short to a long-term view, but understanding there's short-term and medium-term, not only exercises that needs to be done, but also battles that needs to go through, because we're trying to build something that has legacy, and we're trying to build something that has sustainability, and we're trying to build something that has impact, and we're trying to build something that changes systemic nuances and systemic way of doing things.
I love it. So I can see exactly how you plan to attack the issue, and like, how has that been? Like, what challenges or barriers do you face in your work, and like, how is your team, working to overcome that?
That's a great question. When I became a developer 28 years ago, when I was 28 years old, my first project was the project across of Yorkdale Mall. It was a 9-story building. At that time, unfortunately, I didn't have much mentors or individuals that I could look at and say, give me the path. Let me know who is the best contractor to use, who are the best lenders to use, who are the best lawyers to use, what's the best way to structure the deal. I was fortunate that I had my dad who was already in real estate, but really I had to learn, run, walk all at the same time. But it was a great experience because we were able to develop and build a condo. It's a 9-story building, 88 units, and a lot of families, especially within the community, was able to benefit from it. Then we moved on to Pickering, where we launched 23 townhouses. And when we launched the 23 townhouses, we used that as an opportunity to start our rent-to-own model unofficially. We used that as an opportunity to start our affordable rental model as well, too. So we were able to get a lot of families that typically wouldn't have had access to home ownership to be able to get access to that home ownership. But also what we've been also trying to do is educate our community on the process of developing and building in Toronto, developing and building within the GTA, and developing and building within the province and hopefully across Canada. Because one thing that we've been lacking in our community is infrastructure that we've developed and built and use, right? Because for us to run a program, we need infrastructure. For us to have an event, we need infrastructure. So we need to be part of that supply chain. We need to be part of that planning. And with that takes time. There's many other communities that's been at it for multiple decades. And our community is just new to the show when it comes to building that infrastructure. So that's something that we took on our shoulders. And it hasn't been easy because, like I said, when you're bringing on lawyers, contractors, planners, consultants, engineers, and no one has the representation that looks like you, then that means it's a new space, right? And within new space, you got to learn fast so that you can navigate that space. But, we're thankful that, with over 10 development sites that we've done, we've had many successful ones, and we've had many that we've learned a lot of lessons from. And then now it's taking those lessons, saying, okay, how can we scale? But more importantly, how can we help others who we see coming up now to make sure they don't get through those lessons and learn that through our path? And that's what mentorship is.
So at the same time that you're, disrupting the ecosystem and trying to sort of level the playing field for our community, you're also mentoring those who are coming behind you as well in the same space. And that's what it sounds like.
Absolutely. There's, that's something that, because I know being the only one in a space, there's no sustainability in that. Right. There's no scalability in that, and there's no real infrastructure community being built. So it's always been important for me to encourage, collaborate, share ideas with those that also want to be city builders. At Dreammaker, we're city builders. You go to Yorkdale, you see our building. You go to the airport, you see our building, which we've now utilized as a business center and a business hub. You go to Woodbridge and Kleinburg, you see our homes. You go to Pickering, you see our townhouses. You go to downtown, you see that we developed and built 40 rooms a rooming house that was utilized by youth, that was utilized by those that had no other rental option, because we're city builders. But then also we're creating a platform for those that are contractors to be able to plug in to our projects, so that they could also get the encouragement to be city builders on themselves as well too, right? So because the more builders that we have in our community, the more infrastructure we'll have in our community, and the more understanding of the multi-billion-dollar industry that we're not tapping into.
I appreciate that. I think it's everything that you're creating the path, and all reaching back for then the next one to come right behind. It makes it very simple and seamless for other people to be able to join and that impact. What would you say is the ultimate goal? Like, what does success look like for your team, or what do you want to see in the future with everything that you're building right now?
I think that for us, and I'll speak from a GTA and then a national point of view. Within the GTA, there's massive redevelopments happening. There was a Regent Park, there's Lawrence Heights, there's Alexander Park, there's Jane and Finch, there's Weston Road, there's the Scarborough Golden Mile, there's Little Jamaica on Eglinton. These are multiple $100 million, billion-dollar redevelopments happening around us in the GTA. If as a community, we're at the table when it comes to the planning of it, when it comes to the execution of it, when it comes to the hiring of it, when it comes to the selling of it, when it comes to the occupancy of it, there's a ripple effect, an economic ripple effect that will have a massive impact on our community. And then you take that model to Montreal. I'm sure they have the same types of cities. You take that model to Ottawa. You take that model to BC and Vancouver. You take that model to Nova Scotia, where a lot of the origins came out of, and you start building infrastructure and make sure our community is part of that supply chain. What we're creating is not only generational wealth, but we're creating a path for more mentorship, a path for more opportunities for our youth, and a path for more disposable capital to put in dollars to the social initiatives that are out there, like mental health, like providing affordable housing, like providing a space to be able to run programs, like providing a space for refugees that are coming in from communities that look like us, like providing a space for other marginalized communities. So infrastructure is so important. So my hope is that as we continue to do the work that we do and collaborate with organizations that have a city building mindset, organizations that have a long-term mindset, that they're willing to go on this path with us, understanding that it's not an easy path, because there has never been a city that was built overnight. There's never been a building that was built overnight. And there's never been a building, a development, or a systemic issue that has been changed that didn't come with sweat, that didn't come with sacrifice, that didn't come with challenges, and that didn't come with understanding and collaboration. So our goal at Dreammaker is to collaborate and work with individuals and organizations that have that long-term vision, that true organic sense of trying to help the community with short-term wins along the way.
Absolutely. I know you mentioned collaboration a lot. And as a Scotian born, I appreciate that you want to develop things here in the big city and then move it around to the smaller communities, because that's something that I think Canada sometimes lacks in. It's just like, there's Toronto, there's Vancouver, maybe Ottawa, and nobody's really passing the baton.
Well, and that's the thing. And this is why we took the hardest route. It would have been easier if we went out 1, 2, 3 hours out of Toronto, away from the real hustle and bustle, away from the expensive real estate, away from the more battlefield, and done it over there where it can't be seen, where it has no impact, where there's no ripple effect, because what are we going to do? Take all the youth that's within the GTA and try and bring them 2 hours out to get inspired? Or they walk out at Lawrence Heights and look at a building that we built?
Right.
Or they come from Jane and Finch to our business hub and hotel by the airport, and then we put them in a bus and then take them to another site 15 minutes away. Once we've done it in Toronto, now we could go anywhere in the country and have even more impact where our community is. So it was very important the first 10 years of being a developer and builder to learn in Toronto, because no one else has been able to do it prior to us from our community. So it was so important that we did that. Now we see others doing it, and we're proud and happy and love that. So now there's an opportunity that the 4 or 5 other developers within our community to come together as a consortium to do larger developments, to do cities, to do community cities together. And now you start going from home ownership to now building commercial, to now start building retail, to start building retirement home, to start building private hospitals. We can't speak about all of that until we understand how to collaborate, how to understand the battles of building infrastructure, and how to understand the long-term goal of building a sustainable economic community.
Absolutely. You mentioned the youth and pushing the trades a lot, and that's something we're really passionate about here at Setsi and Sisters in Solidarity. So how do you do that? How are you engaging young people or encouraging them to look at the trades more?
Listening to what their needs are, showing representation within the trades, and exposing them. And then once you do that, then working with other organizations in the community that have exposure to those youth, that are already running programs to those youth, and then collaborate with those organizations. Because there's many organizations that are doing several youth programs, but they don't have access to a construction site. They don't have access to a digital media lab. They don't have access to 3D VR system like we have access to. So we collaborate with those organizations. They don't have access to a business center, 14,000 square feet business center that's going to expand to 28,000 square feet business center. Point to me in the city where there's a business center of almost 28,000 square feet that is a workshop location, that is a training location, that is a co-working space location for Black entrepreneurs, for Black nonprofits to be able to come collaborate, for those that want to do an event, that those that want to be able to train after 5 o'clock, for those that want to be able to do it in the evening, for those that want to do it in the weekend, on the weekend, for those that want to maybe do it on a holiday, for those that want to do it with the parents after work hours, to be able to do things during the hours that you typically may not get access to space to do it, you need to have the ownership within the community. So that's why it's been so important for us to build in the city where our community resides, and to build infrastructure our community can use, leverage, grow, and be inspired by.
Yeah, really appreciate that. And you mentioned collaboration a lot, many times. Is there any particular partners that you collaborate with that you want to mention that have been pivotal in the work that you're doing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously, Setsi with the great work that they're doing, TCBN with the great work that Rosemary is doing when it comes to the community benefits. YACE, great work, Devin is doing with really going out there and pulling the kids, from Jane and Finch and other marginalized locations. There's a lot of great organizations that we've been fortunate to collaborate with, a lot of great municipalities that we've been fortunate to collaborate with, university partners like obviously Carleton University, Ontario Tech, TMU that we've been able, and all the university partners that we built relationships across Canada. I gotta mention BBI and Rustum up in Nova Scotia and the great work that he's doing. And of course, the great work Tiffany and Face is doing, and the collaboration that we're looking at doing. And of course, Liban and the work that he's doing there. It's exciting to see, because these are individuals that as well have put down the last 10, 15 years of sweat and sacrifice to build infrastructure within their panel. And of course, Black North, the Habbo and West, with the work that we're doing with the homeownership bridge program, and the way we're changing, and the way we're changing the narrative when it comes to housing. So, this generation is really honing in on collaboration, which is exciting to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely the message right now. Anytime you go to any sort of conference or hear anybody speak, it's all about collaboration. And you mentioned a few of the issues that, your team is most definitely passionate about. Is there any other pressing issues that you feel are priority to the impact on city development that, our community needs to be more aware of?
Well, I think the biggest piece is that, like, we as a city, because my focus is building infrastructure. I'm a builder, building infrastructure. There's enough groups in our community, individual and community, that know how to build good programs, know how to run good programs. Mm-hmm. And I don't want our community to be in a position where we have all the programs and nowhere to house it. Luckily, because of COVID, a lot of things can happen like the way it is right now through Zoom and all that virtually, but we still need infrastructure, because we still need a place for our community to come, collaborate, share ideas, for our youth to come after school for activities, for our parents to be able to go for, whether it's a retirement home, old age home, or activity home, for our community to be able to host events. And then, because of the rise in prices of homes, we need to be at the table to make sure that when they're talking about rent-to-own models, we're at the table. When they're talking about affordable rental models, we're at the table. When they're talking about the infrastructure budget and how they're going to be piecing out the developments of it, we're at the table. But to be at the table, you have to produce. To be at the table, you got to be able to show what you've done in that space. So that's why it's so important, super important, that we focus on execution. And that's what we've been doing at Dreammaker. That's why in the last 10 years, apart from launching the first Black Tech Incubator, apart from launching the first fellowship for sickle cell at Sick Kids, apart from launching a research center, apart from launching the first Black Tech Venture Fund, we built condos, townhouses, apartment buildings, a boutique hotel, townhouses, custom homes. And what we're excited about now is the launch of Dream Affordable Housing, so that we could launch the 67 towns that we're building just outside of the GTA that is more price conscious, so that we could get families in on product in the 650 range, so that we could get families in with a rent-to-own model at the 650 to 750 range. But more importantly, so that we could get businesses in our community working on the construction site.
And how does that Dream Affordable Housing work? Or like, when is it operational now? Is it accessible now? Or it's something that's coming?
So it's something that's coming. It's been working unofficially for probably the last 5-6 years on some of our different development sites, but we've now seen that we need to compromise, put together the strategy specifically for affordable housing. Why? Because we're at the table. Why? Because we've developed and built over $250 million worth of projects around the GTA. So we understand what the needs are. We understand what the gaps are. So we could be also part of the solution. The worst part for a community is waiting for a solution to be brought to you. In housing, in skilled trades, if we're not in the trenches, developing and building and putting up product, our community will be waiting for solutions when it comes to affordable housing.
Right.
We'll be waiting for solutions when it comes to skilled trades, because we're not at the table. Because to be at the table in this industry, you gotta have a lot of willingness to take sacrifices. You gotta have the willingness to take risk. You gotta have the willingness to think long-term and understand there's battles along the way, but there's a big reward. And you see that with other communities that have understood the value of creating infrastructure.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you for taking the risk, getting a seat at the table. It's very valuable, obviously, priceless. The work that you're doing now, what you have coming in the future, it's definitely really exciting. So we really appreciate that. Do you have any more closing thoughts or calls to action for our community that you want to share?
I think our biggest call to action is continue to do, well, at least those that are doing it, collaborate, share ideas, understand this is a long game, understand that as a community, the phase that we're in is the economic phase. The phase that we're in is the infrastructure phase, is the build-in phase, which is, to be honest, an expensive phase, a risky phase, because it has multiple moving parts. And it's becoming a phase that if we don't dare and focus on, it's gonna have a ripple effect in other areas. We can't deal with mental health issues if we don't have infrastructure in the healthcare space. We can't deal with the youth issues and the lack of job opportunities issues if we're not tapped into the multi-billion-dollar infrastructure space that has hundreds of jobs. So we can't deal with the social pieces if we don't understand the infrastructure development and building piece.
I love that. I really, again, appreciate your time, your remarkable leadership. We really do appreciate it. Definitely hope to have you back as you continue to develop and move on. And when you're showing up in Nova Scotia to pass the baton, we want to capture that for sure. So thank you for that. We'll definitely put your contact below, all the various links to your different sites, organizations as well. And we want to close this interview the same way we began, by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we're on. We also want to acknowledge our ancestors and those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We want to acknowledge all of our elders and community stewards whose shoulders we continue to stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So again, thank you so much for being here, Isaac. Thank you for tuning in, and watch next time.
Thank you. Take care.